Back with another episode. We have almost all the bowl games done. Technically, the semifinal games are bowl games. We'll be the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. We're down to just 4 teams in the college football playoff remaining. 3 teams from the North and just 1 SEC team left. Definitely didn't think it'd be drawn up this way when we started the season. But here we are with 2 Big Ten teams, Notre Dame and Texas, left in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, coming into the season, I definitely would have had Georgia and Texas's spot. I don't think I would have had Notre Dame even anywhere close to this spot, but here we are. This is 2024, 2025, right in your face.
Back with another episode.
Did you hear that?
Of the Walk-On.
Did you hear that, Jake? I hear the portal moving again.
Oh,
over in Clemson, South Carolina, that portal just started ringing again, baby. Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama has officially committed to Clemson. That's the 3rd portal. Y'all done messed around and got Dabo involved in this thing. Y'all done messed around.
You know,
Tyler from Spartanburg called. Paul Feinbaum called. Everybody's calling. He answered through the portal, baby. Let's go.
It was about time that Dabo realized, like, hey, you can bring guys in from the portal. I don't want to say he didn't realize. I think he was a little bit more meticulous with this, of understanding that you have a culture there. You don't want to upset it. Bringing in guys to, compete. But as college football players at high level, you have to be understanding that no matter who is in your room, you're competing no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this has more to do with the roster change of 105 rather than it does about Dabo changing his mindset. I think now that walk-ons aren't going to be on the team, you have to fill those roster spots. Why not fill them up with guys who are proving it that are in the portal? So this is actually perfect timing for Clemson and for Dabo to make that change. Obviously, revenue sharing coming from schools is helpful too. My son just passed out on his books during quiet time. So both kids are successfully napping. My wife usually does this. I did it all by myself. So I'm kind of a big kid now.
Give a hand to William here, putting his kids down on nap time.
And talking ball. And talking ball. Name another grittier podcast than this. I mean, I'm over here, still got a cold. It's Jake's birthday eve. I'm eating Chinese food off the camera, drinking hot gingerbread tea to help me. That's right. I said gingerbread. I'm still in the freaking holiday spirit. And what else is going on? But the college football playoffs, baby. It's still here. I was talking to my wife last night. She goes, "It's still going on?" I was like, yes, it is. And it's beautiful. And it's immaculate. And you're going to love it.
Yeah. Well, back to your point about, the portal, that Dabo has lost plenty of guys to the transfer portal year in, year out. It hasn't been astronomical numbers.
No, I think the most he's lost is 12, which is good if you're replacing people. He wasn't. Yeah. So
it's hard to backfill with true freshmen because
absolutely,
especially in certain positions, when you think about like offensive line, when you think about guys, positions that need time to mature, to grow. Linebacker, how often do you see your true freshman linebackers playing? Sometimes, but usually there's a transition period of maturing and understanding of defenses, bringing guys in who have that knowledge already, like what they just brought in, bringing in somebody that is some sort of a veteran leadership, veteran understanding that can help with the transition period while these freshmen get better. We've seen guys have success doing the portal. I mean, Ole Miss, they obviously won, 10 games, bringing in 50 guys every year, basically. But there's plenty of teams that have done it without needing everybody coming through the portal. And I still think when you look at the 4 teams that are in the college football playoff right now, they have used the portal to bring in guys. 3 of the 4 have transfer quarterbacks in there. But when you look at the makeup of the 4 teams, it is a lot of homegrown talent.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a lot of homegrown talent guys that are in there that they've helped develop.
Well, it reminds me of baseball, Jake, because the adage in baseball is, the team that pays the most normally wins. Honestly, last year you had the Dodgers.
This year the Dodgers.
That was an anomaly. Normally you get those small market teams that are so good with their farm. You think about the Braves, you think about the Padres, which the Padres are now turning into a high market.
The Royals
team.
Won the World Series a bunch of years ago with all those guys.
The
Not
Indians,
a big podcast.
Cubs.
We can talk baseball all afternoon.
But it's similar in the sense that the mindset goes to you really need to use the portal and that's how you build your roster. No. You want to use free agency, the portal, as a supplement. You want to build the basis. Look at Florida State. Look at Colorado. None of the things are sustainable. I'm going to be very curious to see what Colorado does with their two best players, the nucleus of that entire football team does once Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders are gone.
Oh, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And
Also,
what I was saying, like Ohio State, everybody wants to talk about the $20 million roster. The $20 million roster, yada, yada, yada. 9 of the 11 starters on the defense were recruited and have come through Ohio State. The only 2 that haven't were Caleb Downs, who obviously is incredible, and Davison Igbinosun, who's actually in his second year. He played 1 year at Ole Miss and then transferred in. So yeah, he was, I believe he was a freshman All-American, so he was obviously very good. But most of those guys that are playing were recruited by Ohio State. They came in as freshmen, they developed, and they got better.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, obviously you have Will Howard, you have Quinshon Judkins. The receivers are all Brian Hartline's guys. The O-line at this point is all Ohio State guys. There were transfers, but they both got injured. So now it's all Ohio State guys that were recruited by Ohio State and developed by Ohio State. So
all you have to do is say the receiving class has Jeremiah Smith, because that dude is built different. When we were coming into this season, I said we needed to pump the brakes a little bit. I thought they were putting way too much pressure on this kid. And I believe it was Shahan Jaraja was on the podcast from CBS, and he said, I don't know if you should pump the brakes. I think he might be as advertised. And, I compared him to Dorial Green Beckham, coming into Missouri. I'm like, that's the last guy I could really think of with that much hype. He has lived up to the hype and some. And you don't have
not
to go
only that,
much
he's
further.
getting better in every game as well.
Watch the Oregon game. I mean, the dude has some swag to him now. He's playing pissed off. And that team is so much. I mean, we can get more into this later, but again, not to rub it in again, Jake, 'cause I know it hurts a little bit every time I say this. That team losing to Michigan might have been the best thing to ever happen to them, because the change in how they've played in these last 2 games, so since Michigan, so against Tennessee and against Oregon, against teams that are really, really good, they look like the team we've expected them to be all year long. And I know a season's long. I mean, this is the 16th game of the season for Ohio State, right?
It'll be the 15th for Ohio State and Notre Dame.
16th for Texas.
16th for Texas and Penn State.
Right. So that's a lot of football games. I don't think people realize, like, it can get pretty mundane in the teeth of the season. They got woken up. And
especially for a team that's being told all year long that you're going to make the playoffs, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, yes, okay, you need to go in each week with the preparation, but understanding that in the middle of October, you're looking and saying, like, we got to do this until the middle of January.
Yeah. And then speaking of these big markets like Ohio State and Notre Dame, Kirk Herbstreit, I think, is the master of stirring the pot during the postseason.
You mean little Clemson?
Yeah. I don't
little
think
small market Clemson.
I don't think he meant that in the way that everyone's taken it, but with how he's created his image during this postseason, last year with how he talked about Florida State versus Alabama, this year how he talked about SMU, Indiana, Alabama, and now throwing Clemson in there, he's just pissing everybody off. I mean, and like Kirk Herbstreit used to be everybody's sweetheart. What is happening? I mean,
he's even making comments that, well, I wasn't the one that said Alabama should be in there. Dude went on stage and went on and said that maybe we should have been considering somebody other than SMU or Indiana. Like, who else were you considering? And he tried to throw out that, Illinois or Iowa. Like, dude, come on now.
Get out of here. Like now he's saying that if we wanted a big market, we'd do Notre Dame. We'd do people. I cannot tell you. Alabama is like the Cowboys. If you're not a fan of them, you hate them, and somehow there's Alabama fans everywhere. So you want to tell me that Alabama is not one of the bigger markets? Get out! Get out of here now. And then you want to throw Clemson in there just to throw a little bit of shade. Like, we've already been dunked on enough this season, dude. What are you doing?
Don't get me wrong. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas. Those are 3 of the biggest brands,
absolutely.
And they have eyes. But that doesn't mean that those are like the only ones that will bring eyes.
Right? Like, come on, man. He's trying to do some PR repair, and he's just digging the hole deeper. My dad always tells me, Jake, you know what he tells me? When you're digging yourself in a hole, stop digging. Lay the shovel down. That's all you got to do. AKA, stop talking, Kurt. Move on to the next topic. We have 2 of the biggest games, 3 of the biggest games, if you want to include the national championship, are the biggest games of the year coming up. Let it handle itself. Let it handle itself.
I would even argue that these are three of the biggest games in college football history because it's the first time that we're going into a 12-team playoff, and now we got the semifinals where in the past, you had your 4 teams, you had your semifinals and your championship. But now we've really weeded out the pretenders. And you've got, in theory, the rankings 3, 4, 5, and 6 that are now playing. Funny enough, number 1 and number 2 got eliminated and everybody else. So you're really getting the best 4 teams that are still playing.
Yeah.
You can talk about their past however you want, but these teams were ranked 3 through 6. They're obviously very, very good.
Yeah, and honestly, we wouldn't have gotten Texas. We wouldn't have gotten Notre Dame. We wouldn't have gotten maybe even Penn State in the Final Four. This is why I'm glad that we did a 12-team playoff. Like everyone is bashing.
Ohio State would have been out with that loss to Michigan.
And I absolutely love the fact that we have the 12-team playoff this year because we get I forget who it was. I want to say it was Tom Fernelli or Bud Elliott. No, Chris Patterson from Cover 3 Podcast got on. Chip Patterson, sorry. He got on and said, we're getting the best team of the playoff, not the best team of the season. Bull crap. You're telling me that these 4 teams aren't some of the best from the season? I mean, Oregon maybe.
If you had Arizona State in there, then yeah, you'd be talking about the best team in the playoffs. But these 4 teams, they're four of the best. Oregon was the only one who consistently proved it this year. Georgia should have lost to Georgia Tech the last week of the year.
Georgia Tech. Georgia should have lost. They struggled with Kentucky. They should have lost to Kentucky.
Georgia played flip-flop all year long, and you can talk, okay, maybe it's because, Gunnar Stockton. And before I want to get in, there's 1 or 2 other things I want to talk about, but you can talk about all you want with the quarterback play, but Georgia should have lost multiple games this year and ended up winning.
Right.
They almost blew that game to Alabama after they were up a ton.
A ton. I got so many text messages. I was at the Clemson-Stanford game when that happened, and then after the game, I couldn't wait to see what the final score was. I was like, wait a minute, Alabama's in this thing. So that was a roller coaster.
Only other piece of news before we jump in all these games. Northern Illinois is moving from the MAC to the Mountain West because let's talk about all those mountains outside of Chicago.
It has to be about money. I can't fault them. I think the Mountain West is trying to build a case to be a Power 4, Power 5 conference, but I just don't think it happens.
I think they're trying to be on that level with like the American because people tend to view the American as like a higher conference than, the MAC or Conference USA. Northern Illinois has been one of the most consistent teams out of the MAC.
Yeah.
Typically they're in a bowl game. I mean, the MAC, it's so hit and miss, especially in the transfer portal where you can win 3 games one year and then win 9 the next year. Northern Illinois has been pretty steady.
And who's in the Mountain West that has a chance to be in the playoff every year? And that's Boise State.
Except they're going to be in the pack whatever soon. Pack 10.
Oh, I forgot that happened.
So I don't actually remember who all's in the Mountain West in 2 years at this point with all the movement around. But supposedly they're going to get probably 5 or 6 times their revenue, their TV money. They were getting something, I think, like around $1 million, $1.5 million. And they're pushing, 10. I don't think it's quite 10 million. I think it's going to be like $7 or $8 million a year compared to like 1.5. And I mean, they've got to fund the athletic department. Now they've got to go find a place for their other sports to play, but I think somebody's going to snatch them up for their other sports. I think they understand. Although now we get Hawaii versus Northern Illinois as a conference game.
That's going to be brutal. Oh, and it can't be Maction. I was going to say, what if it was Tuesday night Maction? Hawaii plays in the snow.
Hawaii plays in North. Yeah, that would be absolutely
Mountain Waction. I don't know.
It's like 6,000 miles apart or something like that.
Throw this on pause real quick. Let me go turn this light off. Sorry.
All right, let's start talking about these college football playoff games. First one, let's start with the Fiesta Bowl that happened on New Year's Eve. Want to roll through these because at this point, been a week from now, we'll definitely get into our games.
You tweeted about this, Jake. It does seem like it's been forever and a day.
Yeah,
since the last college football game. And I think it's because they've been playing in the middle of the week rather than from Saturdays. I don't know. It just feels like it's been an eternity.
I also think part of it is because, we had a couple bowl games at the end of last week, but there wasn't the hype around them. I mean, the Ole Miss Duke game, and then you had the Duke's Mayo Bowl. But the weekend before, you had games stacked back to back to back. You had 5 or 6 bowl games on Saturday. You had, midweek. We had games like every single day, and all of a sudden we go, okay, One game Saturday, Buffalo blows out I forget
Liberty.
who they play, Liberty, and now we have to wait like 5 more days for a game. And now we're looking, it's like still like 12 days until the College Football National Championship. We've got 2 games that happen the next 2 days, and then we've got over a week. But let's start with the Boise State game. Boise State held their own against Penn State way longer than I thought they would. I got to give them credit.
Honestly, like you take away the missed kicks, there's 2 missed kicks, 2 crucial missed kicks that changes momentum completely.
Yep.
You take away the Ashton Jeanty fumble, and Boise State is similar to Arizona State, in which they had every chance to win that game, and just couldn't cut it. I mean, hats off to Penn State for doing what they were supposed to do. They handled business. They're more talented. You saw that. They loaded the box and they said, Maddox Madsen, throw the football on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he threw the ball really well. Like if you're a box score watcher, well, he had 3 picks.
Yeah, one of them was like the very last play of the game or something like that.
Right. So like 2 of them, they were trying to force the ball down the field. Like, what are you going to do? One of them was a real pick. So like I don't put any chalk to the turnovers. I thought he played an excellent game. He played the best game he had to play when he had to play it. So hats off to Boise State. They belonged. They proved it. They belonged.
Yeah. Penn State, obviously, they play great. They ran the ball very well. There was a point in the game, it was early in the game, where they ran a trick play inside their own 20-yard line, or maybe it was 25-yard line. It was a throwback, and it was incomplete, and it was like 3rd and 1 originally. And I'm sitting here thinking, Andy Kotelnicki, what are you doing?
Right.
Katron Allen, Nick Singleton are gashing Boise State's defense for 5-6 yards every time. You've got 3rd and 1, and now you're going to try to get cute and run a trick play. No. There's a point where it's like you just need to get the first down and keep moving, because then all of a sudden you punted it. Boise State, I believe, went down and scored after that, or if it wasn't, they fumbled. There was, however, it ended up playing out. It felt like that was a weird.
Missed the field goal. That's the missed field goal drive, I think.
They missed one to start the game, and then they missed another one. But it felt like that was like a weird shifting of events, because they suddenly gave Boise State life that they didn't need to give Boise State life.
If you could summarize that game in one sentence, what would you say?
I mean, I could just tell you one word: odd.
Odd. Yeah. It was odd because number one, Boise State's best player, number one, was playing on one leg and still making plays against a much more talented offensive line. That just tells you.
If you watch the box scores and see that Ashton GT ran the ball for 30 times for 104 yards, you go, oh, he didn't have a great game. He did that against 7 dudes in the box every single play.
At least.
Every single play, they loaded the box because they said, Maddox Madsen, you're not going to beat us. Like, Maddox Madsen won't beat us with his arm, but if we don't give GT enough resources up front, he's going to beat us.
And how many times did the first guy tackle him? It was not 36
There's
times.
A highlight out there where he broke like 5 tackles and got 8 yards.
Yeah. He's unbelievable. And there's people using that game to justify why he didn't win the Heisman. I'm like, obviously you don't know football or you didn't watch the game.
No, absolutely. And Boise State played well. Penn State, their offense was just better than Boise State defense. Boise State, this is where you see the gap in Power 4 versus Group of 5, the talent that Penn State's offensive line didn't play phenomenally. They gave up 4 sacks, 7 tackles for losses. Drew Allard didn't have a phenomenal game. He was 13-25, a bunch of incompletions. Now, some of his incompletions were on his receivers. His receivers had some very bad drops in this game.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Very, very bad drops. Amari Evans absolutely botched one. It was in the end zone, in his hands, and he just dropped it.
Yeah, he also threw some dimes. That first touchdown pass to who
Tyler
was that?
Warren?
No, the one before that on the long ball.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Amari Evans. Yeah, Amari Evans caught it.
Oh, yeah, Amari Evans.
Maybe it was Harrison Wallace. One of them dropped. It was straight up in their hands.
Yeah.
And in the end zone, and he just lost it.
Tyler Warren's also a man. If I had to describe the game in one word, it'd be justified. Because Boise State justified that they should be there, and Penn State honestly justified that they should have been there too. Because I think, me including, had a lot of question marks about this Penn State team coming in. I think I had more question marks about Penn State than I did about Boise State. Because I didn't know what Penn State would show up. We're really going to find out this week.
Boise State, you knew their limitations pretty much off the bat.
Right. So I think that game was awesome, despite the end result. What about this next one, Jake?
This next one is so Arizona State and Texas. I mean, this game to me originally felt like it was over. The Texas moves down the field. It feels like there's a weird recipe where these underdogs continue to do this, where, okay, if you're going to try to win this game, you have to capitalize early. Arizona State goes down, they miss a field goal. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. I've watched this script.
We watched this last night.
This script 2 weeks in a row. The underdog has to score on the first drive, and here we are. Or my bad, I think they kicked a field goal. They actually kicked a field goal. So I was like, okay, at least they got points. But Arizona State scores with 8:59 left in the first quarter. Texas takes 2 plays, goes 77 yards in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And I go, oh boy, here we go. This is all it takes. Texas scores a minute later out on a punt return by Silas Bolden, where he beats everybody. Absolutely beats everybody. And I'm sitting here going, how am I supposed to spend the next 3 hours? Because this game is over. Yeah. Absolutely over. 17-3 at halftime. 17-3 at halftime. And the final score was 39-31.
Yeah. Texas against Clemson fell apart in the fourth quarter. Texas against Arizona State fell apart in the fourth quarter. Also, let's go ahead and clear the air. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's address it, Jake. That was targeting.
That was targeting to me.
I mean,
it was targeting.
What are we doing?
It was targeting to me, and I don't understand. It felt like the letter of the law. I mean,
I don't understand what we're doing at this
letter
point.
Of the law.
Right. I don't understand what we're doing at this point. Who are you calling? There must not be a headquarters that they're calling. They must be making it up. They must have a magic 8 ball. They must be flipping a coin, because at this point, it does not make a lick of sense. A lick of sense. And for those of you who aren't from down south, a lick means zero, nada, nothing. That makes no sense. I don't understand. Again, I'm not blaming the game on that. Arizona State had a plethora of opportunities to win the game in other avenues, and they just didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk about the first quarter.
The overtime, 4th down.
Right.
You blitzed 7 or 8 guys.
4th and 13, and you blitz the house, go cover 0.
Yeah, you bring the house, and Matthew Golden just beats your receiver, and nobody gets through the line. That's the other thing.
Right.
You bring 7 or 8 guys, and nobody actually busts through the line and puts the pressure on Ewers.
Yeah. Hats off to Kenny Dillingham, though, too. Like, that game, number one, after the game, had all his guys shake the hands of the Texas players in their lowest moment. And then B, like, taking full responsibility for the guy being out of position in that play.
Yeah.
I mean, just a phenomenal. He has won me over. He's won America over. And if I had one word to describe that game, Jake, it would be electric, because that game turned out to be a power surge electric bomb in the second half. I mean, my wife, I've never seen my wife that into a game. She was tuned all the way in.
And does Texas field goal kicking concern you this weekend?
Absolutely, because now it's in his head. But another thing I want to share, are we in the trust tree?
We're in the trust tree.
I may or may not have shed a tear during that Texas-Arizona State game. When Cam Scatterbo got pulled into the end zone, I think this was the play that.
Oh, well, the offensive lineman grabs him and says, "You're scoring this touchdown."
Jake, I told my wife, I said, I'm about to cry. That's what football is all about. I mean, she's like, "What are you talking about?" And starts laughing at me. She comes over there, and I had tears coming out of my eyes. She goes, "What is wrong with you?" I said, This is football. This dude can barely get up off the ground. He's throwing up on the sideline. He's about to die, and yet he just keeps going out there and making these plays. Like, that was what it's all about. And then you have a teammate who carries him. I mean, Jake, that's what I live for. That is my football brain in a nutshell. So I'm not gonna lie to y'all. That brought me to tears.
Yeah, Cam Scatterbo had himself an absolute day. Threw a touchdown, caught a 62-yarder, didn't quite score, but had 99 yards receiving. Also ran for 143. I mean, there's a reason why he won the MVP, even though they lost.
He might have been justified in saying no one could stop him. I was dunking on him a little bit in that first half.
I dunked on him too, because he got stopped on a 4th down, and then all of a sudden the second half came around. He puked and rallied.
He absolutely did. So hats off. Arizona State, another one, belonged.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Played their
what
tails
about
off.
this next one though, Jake? I know you're ready to talk about this next one.
Did Oregon belong? Are we sure Oregon belonged?
I don't know, because that logo, that's how many points they had going into the last 2 minutes of the first half.
Obviously, we all saw the Tennessee game, and Ohio State played well, and I thought that might have been just a mismatch there. Like, Tennessee, they were missing a bunch of guys, and they're playing in cold weather, and it's a home game for Ohio State, and Ohio State's pissed off, and okay, I'll give you one. When you come out and you're leading 34-0 over the undefeated number 1 team in the country, and this isn't preseason number 1. This isn't a team that hasn't done anything all year. This is a team that won the Big Ten, went 13-0, and hasn't lost the game, and has rarely been trailing at any point this year.
The sole undefeated team in the college football playoff, mind you.
And Ohio State made them look like a MAC team.
Yeah, they beat the absolute bricks off of them. Jeremiah Smith had something to prove. Will Howard had something to prove. I think he was playing pissed off from what happened in the last contest. And someone needs to tell me, Autzen Stadium must be maybe Josh Pate was right. Maybe Autzen Stadium is the loudest stadium in the world, because you're telling me that home field makes that much of a difference, 34-32 versus whatever the heck that was.
Oregon had the ball. I think they had the ball. Let's see, 1, 2, for their first 7 drives. But before it was 34-0. They had the ball 7 times in the first half before their final drive where they scored. They went 3 and out on 4 of them.
That's awful.
4 times they went 3 and out. The other 2 times they went 7 plays, 26 yards for punt, 7 plays, 23 yards. Didn't convert on 4th down. I mean, Oregon had negative rushing yards. Now, sacks are counted into that. But when you look at just the running backs, Jordan James had 7 carries for 14 yards. Noah Whittingham had 6 carries for 3 yards. Jaden Lidmar has 2 carries for 4 yards. At a certain point, they're throwing the ball every play because, if you even want to remotely think about coming back, you have to be throwing the ball. But, I mean, it was not a good day. It was not a good day for Oregon. It was a terrible day. Jeremiah Smith had over 100 yards in the first quarter. He went absolutely bonkers. And it wasn't, okay, hey, they moved him into space. The very first catch he has, it's a drag route and just splits 2 defenders and he's gone 45 yards. My favorite play was the pass down on the sideline. There's 3 Oregon defenders. He goes up, jumps, grabs it out of the air, high points the ball fantastically. And the Oregon defender shakes his arms like he defended the ball, and then turned around and goes, "Oh, never mind, he caught that."
Well, if we're talking favorite plays, mine is Will Howard throwing literally a dime. The window is maybe the size of a dime to Emeka Egbuka for the second touchdown of the game, I believe it was. That was one of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen. I mean, you couldn't have put it in a better spot. And Emeka Egbuka almost dropped it because it was so perfect.
Well, the defender got like a finger on it when he was reaching his hand in. Egbuka caught it with one arm in his right hand because that's how he had to get the ball.
Yeah, that was. Will Howard made some money, and well, we don't want to talk about Emmanuel Acho right now. Fox is in some kind of heat.
Emmanuel Acho says that Will Howard is the worst quarterback still in the playoffs. And look, I understand Will Howard's got his limitations, but all 4 of these quarterbacks have limitations. None of them are Heisman Trophy quarterbacks.
Which is crazy. Yeah, let's talk about that. There's not a solid Heisman candidate quarterback left in the playoffs. All these teams are winning off of one thing and one thing only: defense.
Yeah,
defense. Defense wins championships. Offense wins games. Defense wins championships. Ask
Drew
Oregon.
Aller is the guy that people want to say, like, okay, he's got the size, the mechanics, he's got the footwork, he's got everything that you want in an NFL quarterback. So, if he goes, he could be a first round pick, but he's got limitations playing as well.
I got to take with Drew Aller and Riley Leonard. You ready to hear it, or should we wait?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Drew Aller and Riley Leonard are essentially inverse quarterbacks. Drew Aller passes where Riley Leonard can't and runs where Riley Leonard can. I'm not wording this very well. This is great podcasting. Where Drew Aller can pass, Riley Leonard can run. Where Riley Leonard can't pass, Drew Aller can't run. Well, William, Drew Aller can run enough. He can run well. Hey, person who didn't say anything, but I'm speaking to him. Riley Leonard can pass, but not pass very well. He can do just enough. So I think they're the same exact quarterback, just flipped.
I get what you're saying. That Drew Aller, he does enough with his legs to be versatile.
Riley Leonard does enough with his arm to be versatile.
Yeah,
you put it way more eloquently than I did.
Riley Leonard's got like that. I hate using this term, but like the poor man Johnny Manziel-esque to him of like he's shifty enough. He can make guys miss. You don't really want to let him get loose because then he's going to run the ball for 20 yards.
He's more Tebow than Manziel. He plays with way more heart than Manziel.
Yeah, but Tebow is a little more bulky. Tebow was a little bit more fullback-esque. There's a reason why he turned into a tight end at one point in the NFL.
So Riley Leonard is the running back of quarterbacks. Tim Tebow is the fullback of quarterbacks.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I like it. I like it. We got an I formation of quarterbacks. We put Lamar Jackson because he's a receiver because that's what Jim Irsay said he'd be. Now we have a whole team. Anyway, sorry, I derailed us.
The one thing, so Ohio State's defense last time they played Oregon had 0 sacks. Against Oregon this time they had 8 sacks.
I think the law of averages, they should have had 4 in both.
And a lot of these sacks, I will say, it wasn't Ohio State just bringing pressure and getting it.
Oh, past the 8 sacks. Sorry, Jake, I cut you off. We had a Jack Sawyer holding penalty.
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
There was no holding penalties in that game.
I thought they called on this one.
There's plenty when you go screenshot it that, he's being held. But no,
but it's been how many days has it been since Jack Sawyer has been called for?
Jack Sawyer has not been. There's not been a holding call against Jack Sawyer since 2021. Ohio State has not had a holding call called against them since Marshall in September.
That is absolutely insane. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off. I got excited because of that, but obviously it's still going.
Your man crush Cody Simon had 2 sacks in this game.
Yes, he did. That man.
Cody Simon was a beast against the pass and the run, where he spied Dylan Gabriel and did phenomenally. He understood that when Dylan Gabriel was starting to roll out, just commit. He didn't play any of this and stop and try to break down and let Gabriel get loose. He just took out Gabriel, and I think Gabriel got rattled being down this much so early.
Yeah, he turned into a shell of himself. It's like the moment was too big. He collapsed. But if you want to talk about one word for this game, it's dominance with a big green O in the for the second letter.
Yes, this was an absolute domination, and there was nothing else about it. Let's move on to the last one. Last one had to be moved. Obviously, horrific tragedy down in New Orleans. Yeah. Very, very sad. Thoughts and prayers to everybody there. Hopefully that the city is able to recover. But there was a football game that was moved from New Year's Day to the 2nd. Georgia played against Notre Dame. And I think we all knew this game was going to be a little weird because Gunnar Stockton was getting the start rather than Carson Beck. Gunnar Stockton actually played well. His stats don't show it, but he was making throws and just, once again, Georgia's receivers, who I heard had 39 drops this year,
led to FBS.
We're still dropping passes.
The talent margin from Georgia to other teams, that should never, ever, ever happen. And I wish to God it happened against Clemson, but for some reason they called every single pass.
Well, it was the reason why they went and got Zachariah Branch.
Yeah, and his brother.
Yeah, and his brother. Because they said, we're done with these drops. We're going to go get a guy who's a baller.
The reason they lost, Jake, I'll come flat out and say it. It's because you had a rotating door. You had Swiss cheese. You had whatever you want to call it at left tackle.
Yeah.
I mean,
you couldn't stop them.
Notre Dame's defensive line had their way with Georgia's offensive line. I mean, they abused them. I mean, and they made Gunnar Stockton. They put Gunnar Stockton under pressure on almost every single play. And then when Georgia had the chance to capitalize on opportunities, they didn't. Trevor Etienne fumbles in the red zone. I mean, just bad ball handling. I mean, but Georgia's been doing this to themselves all
You tripped the official on the sideline.
Come on, dude. You're a walk-on. Stay on the bench. Hey,
here, I want to hear. I want to hear this. I want to hear this from you because you have been in this position before where it wasn't necessarily like this high every time, but as a walk-on, who's not even in uniform, not even in pads. He just has the jersey on. Is there like an unwritten rule of like, dude, you're in the back. Like,
Yes.
go stand on the bench. Like, you're not
Yes.
near the sideline.
My class of walk-ons at Clemson knew, stay out of the way. Don't get in these guys' way. Stand on the bench, and if they need to use the bench, get off the bench and just watch out. When we played Ohio State in the Orange Bowl, shout out to Jake, 2014, I think we won that game. Do you remember if we won that game? We won
too long ago.
We won that game.
Memory loss.
But there's actually, if you watch the game, I believe it's when Jaron Curse gets the interception. I believe it was Jaron Curse. You can see me on the bench, jumping off the bench in excitement. The bench is a good 10 yards away from the white. So not even close to being on the football field, right? That is where you should be. Parker Turner, ESPN didn't want you to be found out, but they decided to say your name 400,000 times. And then
I feel so bad for that kid because
what the heck is wrong with them?
I feel so bad for that kid because obviously he knows he messed up. And now the kid's going to get death threats. The kid's going to get all sorts of hate mail. Like, he is going to go radio silent on friends, family program, no matter what, because Georgia had chances. That's not the reason they lost.
And let's not blame the ref. That is the rule. If the ref runs into you, if you impede the ref's path on the white, it's an automatic penalty. It's not a sideline warning. A sideline warning is when they catch you and they don't run into you. If you make contact with the referee in the white, it is a automatic penalty, no matter what. So all these people arguing it, oh, it was this and that. He was veering off the white. He wasn't. You can pick the angle you want, but if you watch it, he's in the white.
Also, the ref is right down the sideline. Do you think he knows exactly what part he's on? He could be standing, he could be standing 2 inches off. They're not going to go back and review and be like, you know what? He was that. No. Right. Get your ass back off of it. You understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't be near it.
The people who say like you can't call a penalty in that situation, no. You have to call the game fairly. There's rules for a reason. You have to call it in a big situation, just like you call it in a small situation. That way, you don't have all these terrible calls and terrible missed calls.
And you know what's happening with all four teams right now? They're all telling their players, "You better not be near them.
Yeah,
you better not be. If you aren't playing, you better not be near that, because we are not getting a penalty for this in a big situation."
Parker Turner, we'd love to have you come on the show and tell your side of the story. As a walk-on, from walk-ons to walk-on, we'd love to have you come on the show and tell your story if you're listening out there. I know you are. You're a 5-star listener. Walk-on the field, 5-star in your ears.
Let's talk about this game a little bit more, though. So the game really flipped right before the half because, Georgia kicks a field goal. They're going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, Notre Dame makes it 6-3. Georgia fumbles the ball. Notre Dame scores immediately. Then you go to the half, and then all of a sudden they kick the ball off and you score again. All of a sudden we went from 6-3, really 3-3 before the end of it was with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. It was 3-3. At the 14:45 mark, so 3 minutes and 15 seconds or so later, they scored 17 points.
Yeah, absurd. And with how your offense had been, with how the defenses were, 17 points is a lot.
They talk about winning the middle 8. Notre Dame won the middle 4 and won the game. They won the middle 4. They didn't. Yeah. They won the last 3 minutes of the half and the first minute of the second half, and they won the game.
Yeah, and hats off to Georgia. They didn't quit. I mean, all the odds were stacked against them, and they didn't quit. So, I mean, I know it's been a rough year for them in their terms, but that was a really, really good football team. And to take a backup, not everybody. Now, had it been their third string quarterback, maybe they win it all. Jake, has that ever happened before? A red team.
You can win a championship with your third string quarterback.
Yeah,
I can confirm that.
So, all jokes aside, Gunnar Stockton played well with all the things stacking against Georgia. I thought they had a really good game plan. Notre Dame just out-executed them when it mattered. When they were in the red zone, Notre Dame scored. Georgia turned the ball over. It's that simple.
Do you want to do our underdog picks now, or do you want to do them?
Let's do them now. Let's do
underdogs. We love underdog. Underdog is the best way to take your college football fandom to the next level. You can do drafts. You can do pick'ems. Do whatever you want. They've got college football. They've still NFL for the playoffs. NBA is kicked up. Hockey, whatever you're interested in getting into, there's still plenty of sports to get into, even though college football is getting over. You can sign up today with promo code WALKON. Get your free pick plus your first-time deposit up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You can visit underdogfantasy.com, or you can find them in the App Store. You must be 18 or older. Play and terms will apply. I went 1-1 last week. How did you do?
I went 0 for 2. It was rigged though. No. I went 1 for 2. I went 1-1. Excuse me. Quinn Ewers got his.
You got yours. I got Nick Singleton. He went higher than 72.5 rushing yards. I told you he would break a big one, and he did. He had like a 50-yard run. And then Gunnar Stockton, I thought would throw an interception, did not. This week, I'm taking Tyler Warren higher than half a touchdown. He's got 12 in the season. He scored 2 against Boise State. Somebody's got to score, and I think the rush defense for Notre Dame is going to be very hard. I think Notre Dame is going to struggle to cover Tyler Warren. Xavier Watts is probably going to be a guy that's going to be tasked with covering Warren.
Well, and he got hurt like in the Georgia game. Is he available to play, and at what capacity?
Yeah. I mean, even if he's at 80% capacity, I give the advantage to Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren's one of the best offensive weapons in the country, not just tight end, one of the best offensive weapons, especially with how they use him.
He scored from playing offensive line. He could score from anywhere.
Exactly. I think that they get creative with him here. I think that they try to use him as a running back once or twice to try or put him in the quarterback and let him run the ball. Yeah. So I think that he gets there. I think he's going to score a touchdown this game. And then I'm taking Emeka Egbuka to have his longest reception higher than 22.5. In the playoffs, his long has been 40 and 42 so far. There's going to be a lot of attention on Jeremiah Smith. I think Egbuka goes for at least 22 yards in this game.
I think there's going to be a lot of passing yards in that game, man. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but look at Arizona State and Clemson both threw for how many yards did Arizona State end up throwing on them? Clemson threw for 336.
Sam Leavitt threw for 222, but they also had a couple other guys throwing the ball, saying up with 296.
Yeah, so 300 yards respectively from both teams they've played against the number one pass defense in the country. Used to be, now it's Ohio State. So I'll stick with Will Howard in that game. I think Will Howard's going to go higher than 252.5 passing yards for the exact same reason. Both teams were able to throw the ball fairly well against that Texas defense. I think Quinn Ewers, with the amount of weapons he has, like you're saying with Emeka Egbuka, Oregon came out expecting the ball to go to Jeremiah Smith every play. G. Scott starts off the game with a big play. And
yeah, that was them flexing, saying you can focus on whoever you want. We've got more guys.
And like, that's not even Carnell Tate. That's not Emeka Egbuka. He's probably our fifth target. You know, it's not Quinshad Judkins. It's not Trevion Henderson. Like, we're gonna get the ball to anybody, and they're just gonna make plays on you. Even our blocking tight end, who came in as a receiver, I didn't realize that. And they moved him to tight end. Yeah, so hats off to him. That's a real team guy. Yeah,
Jackson Smith and Jigba, Julian Fleming, and G. Scott came in together. One of them is making plays in the NFL. The other had 0 catches against Boise State, and then G. Scott had 1 catch against Oregon as a tight end.
I might put my my football guys team together. Anyway, random thought from me. My other pick is Drew Aller to go higher than 227.5 passing yards.
That was your one last week.
You're right. Same team or same game. Riley Leonard to go lower than 219.5 passing and rushing yards combined. Sorry, I missed the one last week, by the way. I think Riley Leonard's going to struggle in this game. I think both quarterbacks are going to struggle. I don't see a lot of yards coming from either team in this game. I don't trust Notre Dame's offense with Jeremiah Love being hurt. Now, the backup Price, I'm forgetting his first name, is a phenomenal running back too.
Jadarian Price
is very, very good at breaking tackles. I mean, and he held his own against that Georgia defense. I don't think Penn State is as good as Georgia's defense, but they're not bad. Abdul Carter is going to be someone to focus on. There's no way he doesn't play.
There's no way he doesn't play.
But how do they use him? I mean, I don't want to get caught up in all the theatrics.
What percentage is he at as well? Is he at 70%? Right. Is he at 90%? Like, what's he at?
I'm going to share something with you. I don't know if I've ever said this on the air. Shaq Lawson played against Alabama in the national championship my senior year, so 2015, 2016, the 2016 game, but 2015 season, on a sprained MCL. That dude could barely walk. I don't know if he took a snap all practice that week for 10 days. And he had 1.5 or 2.5 sacks against Alabama. Guys like that, that are willing to just put it all on the line, I don't care what percentage they're at. They're going to go out there and ball out. Abdul
When the
Carter
lights come on, when the lights are the brightest, they shine.
That's right. And Abdul Carter gives me the Shaq Lawson kind of aura to him. Like he just plays pissed off all the time, and I think we see that now. Hopefully, he can get old Dennis Sutton, to not play pissed off all the time, and maybe not shove people around and get random unnecessary roughness penalties, because you can't have that happen. And this is going to be another defensive bout. This is going to be another Georgia Notre Dame. I mean, it's going to be a very, very similar game. Drew Aller is a little bit better than Gunnar Stockton. I'm going in our preview. We're talking underdog picks. Riley Leonard is not going to get that high. Is my whole point. They're not going to be able to pass the ball very well. They're not, and a lot of that's going to have to do with not being able to run the ball, not being able to spell Price, and I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Orange Bowl, because that's the one happening on Thursday here.
Yeah, and I essentially just gave half my
Notre Dame is a 1.5 point favorite. It went to 2.5 for a second, but last I saw it's back down to 1.5. To me, I have this game as very low scoring. I think the under is a lock in this, because both of these teams, their defensive fronts are huge. They're going to determine this game. Penn State's secondary isn't phenomenal by any means. They've been eaten up. I mean, Maddox Madsen ended up having 300 yards. Now, granted, they committed a ton of resources to the run game. I think that's a very similar style that's going to happen here, because instead of Ashton Jeanty running the ball, you have to commit to know that Riley Leonard's probably going to run the ball.
Right.
Jeremiah Love is not going to be 100%. If you want another underdog pick, his over or his higher lower is at 38.5. I would take the lower than him, because even if he plays, what's he going to get? 6 carries, 8 carries?
Yeah,
they're going to give a lot to Price. Yeah. I mean, they've got other guys in the backfield. It's not just Price. They've got Jaden Thomas. They've got Aeneas Williams. They've got Devin Ford. They've got a stable of running backs that they can go to keep guys fresh. But Jeremiah Love is not going to be 100%. Marcus Freeman said that without saying it, saying that he was coming along and that he'll play. But you could tell that he's not saying, yep, he's going. And kind of that thing about Abdul Carter is they said he's a game time decision. He's going to play. It's not waste our time. He's going to play. I think it actually been funnier for James Franklin to say nothing rather than, well, we think he's good. He's going to be a game time decision. I think it'd been funnier if he was just like, maybe not, probably not. And then he just comes out and plays. Because I think you're going to have a lot of annoyed fans if somehow he's like incredibly limited and doesn't play.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard's ability to throw the ball is going to be huge. And you alluded to that. He has to be able to throw the ball. But Notre Dame does not have many threats in the passing game. Jordan Faison, Mitchell Evans, Bo Collins are your 3 best. And none of those guys are screaming, yep, that's your number 1. That's your go-to. If it's 3rd and 6 on the line, who we throwing the ball to?
I will argue that I think Faison's kind of emerged as his favorite target.
He's a lacrosse player.
Yeah. Did you know that?
Did you know he plays lacrosse?
Yeah. And I think he's kind of emerged as that guy. A lot of times in Georgia, he just threw it to him and said, hey, touchdown, Jesus. Get him that first down. And Faison made some plays. So Mitchell Evans has been kind of a disappointment this year. What do you think? I mean, I had higher hopes for him because Mitchell Evans was pretty good last two years. He got hurt last year, but before that, he had been a pretty big playmaker. Mitchell Evans is a big tight end coming right behind Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer, right behind Michael Mayer, who obviously is a phenomenal tight end in the NFL. But these guys, it seems like you've got a lot of 2 and 3 wide receivers, not many number 1s. And Faison is good. Bo Collins is the one that scores a touchdown. You've also got Jaden Greathouse. There's guys there, but none that are screaming like, yeah, you can scare the DB with that.
Yeah, nobody that Penn State has to be all right. We have to have a guy be on an island with this guy no matter what. They're not going to do that. They can afford to run zone. They don't have to run man, and they can just make Riley Leonard. I think they're going to have a very similar, maybe a little toned down game plan that they had against Boise State, and say, Riley Leonard, beat us with your arm. Let's see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he can do it.
I think it's going to be very similar. And Penn State's linebackers have been playing a lot better. And Tony Rojas had an interception against SMU. The linebackers have been playing strong. And they're going to be the key because you're going to have to spy Leonard. You're going to have to spy him because even if it's not a designed run play, you know that if Leonard gets loose, he's going for 10. He's going for 15 yards. You've got to be able to limit him when he gets loose, where you can't have it be 2nd and 8 and then him scramble for 12 yards. You can't have it as 3rd and 6 and he scrambles for 15 yards. That's how you kill your own drives. It breaks your back when they can extend it when you think you have it.
Right. What do you think the score is going to be? What you got?
I have this really, really low. I have this 20-14 Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm 20-17. I'm right there with you.
Are you taking Notre Dame?
I'm taking Penn State. And the reason I'm taking Penn State is same with you. I think Notre Dame's going to have a similar game plan, but I think Drew Aller is a better passer than Riley Leonard, and I think
I'll give you that.
Have just enough. Now, the difference between Penn State and Notre Dame, when Riley Leonard does get the ball on the money, the Notre Dame receivers catch it. They're pretty automatic.
Yes, that's
Drew Aller can put the ball on the money, and you talked about this earlier, and his guys don't always catch it. However, he's got somebody by the name of Tyler Warren who had one of the best catches I've ever seen, and I hope one day I get to see the 4K picture of that Moss catch in the back of the end zone in the Rose Bowl. I mean, not the Rose Bowl. Where are they playing?
The
Fiesta Bowl, because that was just beautiful. So that was that's the edge. And I think with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton both being healthy, I think that gives them an edge because they can both spell each other. They're both obviously very, very talented backs. And again, I'm not taking away from Price. I think he's a very, very talented running back for Notre Dame. But with one running back, you really struggle. I mean, look at Clemson with only having Phil Maffa for the majority of the year. Once Phil Maffa got hurt, the running game essentially disappeared because no one else was able to spell him. So if you don't have somebody who can spell you, it can cost you. Penn State's fairly healthy. Notre Dame has, they're missing the defensive tackle. I'm forgetting his name. He got hurt in the first round against Indiana late in the game.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Penn State's offensive line concerns me a little bit. They gave a bunch of sacks to Boise State. Now Boise State brings a lot of blitzes.
That's what I was going to say. It wasn't natural sacks. I mean, it was like, let's bring the freaking house and make Drew Aller think fast. Al
Golden's one of the best defensive coordinators in college football right now.
Right.
But stopping Katron Allen and stopping Nick Singleton is way easier said than done, especially when they combined for 200 yards last week. I think that Al Golden is going to have something up his sleeve. I think there's going to be some creative coverages. I think there's going to be some creative packages. I think Notre Dame wins this, but I mean, I can go either way on this. I just think that if you get to 20 points, you're going to win the game.
Yeah, and I do have one worry though, Jake. Al Golden said he can't leave the facility. They asked him, they said,
how's he going to make it to Miami?
Right. So I'm a little worried about that. If he can't leave the facility, it's going to be really tough.
Is he the opposite of Jamal Adams? Instead of getting in, he can't get out?
Yeah. So with all that aside, Penn State wins this one. I think the most common scenario is 2017. I think they have a chance to go in there and win by double digits, which if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're listening to this, you should rejoice because every time I pick against y'all, you win. So please get excited. Get angry with me all you want, but just know that I'm accidentally, because I'm not doing this on purpose. This is not a Jake voodoo magic, get my guys in there because I'm picking against them. No, this is me actually trying to preview the game, look at all the scenarios, and really thinking this is the most common matchup, and y'all just somehow blow it up every single week. So take it as a compliment that I'm picking against you.
Let's jump over to the Cotton Bowl here. That is potentially on the fringe of getting moved because of Texas getting a snowstorm. Stay tuned. Cotton Bowl's already put statements out about snow.
Ohio State's laughing at them if that happens.
We've got 5 inches of snow here in Columbus on the ground.
Ohio State can fly in the snow. They do it all the time. They got
5 inches of snow. I shoveled my driveway and my neighbor's driveway. Y'all are good.
Did you get your bread and milk? Did you get your bread and milk?
No, they didn't give me anything.
If you don't have bread and milk, then what are you going to do when it snows?
Go to the store and buy whatever I want because the store stays open.
Bread and milk, baby. Got to survive.
Nothing closed other than schools closed for a day. They only closed because they were coming back from break and they're like, yeah, we don't really want to go back again. We talked to one. I talked to a superintendent, and they were like, "Yeah, we could have went to school, but like, we really wanted an extra day for break." I
Yeah.
was like,
Not
"Yeah,
worth
I get it.
Don't
It's
blame
if
me.
it's the middle of the month, one thing, but like, we're still coming back from Christmas break. Like,
Yeah,
let's
and with
just take
schools
another
having
day."
E-days now, they can afford to do that
Yeah,
very easily and not lose a
yeah.
seat day.
All right, let's talk about the Cotton Bowl here. Texas and Ohio State. Ohio State opened as a four, or right around a 4.5, 5-point favorite. It's sitting right around 5.5, 6 or so, depending on the sports book you look at here. Ohio State's favorite for a reason because, I mean, they put an absolute whooping down on the number one team.
Whooping. I love it.
You're up 34-0 on the number one team in the country in the second quarter. It's not like it was a fluke. They took them to the town. Texas, obviously, we talked about them coming off of the Arizona State game here. This game is effectively a home game for Texas, but will Texas fans be able to make it?
Yeah.
Will the home crowd be, less because they can't make it with the snow?
Rich people don't get affected by external factors. So all the rich Texas oil people are going to be there.
They'll just fly right onto
the
parking lot.
People with oil money, that they can't get sick. Traffic doesn't affect them. The weather doesn't affect them. The weather doesn't exist for those people. They're going to be there. But Jake, if you don't mind, I'll bat lead off on this one because I really want to hear your take at the end because I know you're going to be excited. I think this game is going to be ugly. I think this game could get very, very ugly. And the reason I say that is Texas has been challenged by two legitimate passing or offensive threats all year. And that's Clemson and Arizona State. And both those teams were able to move the ball up and down the field at will. The reason that both those teams lost is they couldn't convert when they had the opportunities. Clemson had a 4th and 1, didn't convert. They were on the 1-yard line, couldn't get in. We got a roller. Stay asleep, little one. We're almost there. We're at the end of the Cotton Bowl recap. You got to understand that. You got to understand that. If you're a true football gal, you'll stay asleep. But anyway, Texas struggled against Arizona State. Texas struggled against Clemson, and then they obviously just gave up a quarter. They had one really strong quarter in both those games, and then two decent quarters and one terrible quarter. So they can't play a full game. You cannot do that against Ohio State. Please ask Oregon. Please ask Tennessee. And I think they do that again. I don't trust Quinn Ewers. I think Sarkisian might panic in this game and play Arch Manning a lot more than he has the entire postseason. I don't think Arch Manning played once against Arizona State, but he
didn't register a stat.
Yeah, he got legitimate snaps. I think he had like 4 or 5 snaps against Clemson. I think Quinn Ewers struggles a lot. I think the Ohio State defensive line is going to be too much for that Texas offensive line because one thing we're not talking about enough is how much pressure teams have been able to put on Quinn Ewers in this playoff. And the other big difference is you're not going to be able to run the ball against Ohio State. They couldn't run the ball against Arizona State, so they're surely not going to run against Ohio State.
Yeah, they have to establish some sort of run because you saw eventually Ohio State gave up yards in the past, but Oregon has the playmakers and Texas has the playmakers. I mean, you got Ryan Wingo, you've got Matthew Golden. You've got guys that can make plays. Gunnar Helm is a good tight end in the passing game, but they've got to be able to establish the run. I mean, you've got one of the best left tackles in the country. You've got one of the best freshman defensive linemen in the country that they've got talent on both sides of this ball. But they have to be able to be consistent, and they can't be streaky like they were against Arizona State. 2 plays, 75 yards. Yeah, that's great. You score when you can. But you have to be able to sustain drives. Texas did not look good in the first half after they scored their first 2 touchdowns. They were punting the ball. They kicked a field goal, but they went three plays, -2 yards at one point. It was not consistent, and I struggle to believe that Texas is going to have consistency to be able to move the ball, especially as Ohio State has the playmakers to be able to do it with anybody. It's not like they have to rely just on Jeremiah Smith. They have to rely just on Travion Henderson. They're scoring with everybody on their team right now. I really think that Ohio State's offense is going to do enough. I think Sark is going to have some tricks up his sleeve. I think there's going to be a couple of things that he does, but I think in the end, Ohio State's going to win. So I have Ohio State. I believe the score that I said, 30. I believe I have 33-24. So I think Ohio State wins. I think they cover the spread, but I think it's a little bit closer than people think. I see people putting 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. I think Texas knows what's coming towards them, and they're going to be a little more ready. Ohio State's not able to catch them off guard like they were Tennessee, even Oregon a little bit.
Sorry. I don't think it matters. I think Ohio State wins 38-20. I think Matthew Golden for Texas is going to do what he's done all year and just continue making these big-time plays in these big-time games. He's phenomenal. He makes Quinn Ewers look right even when he's wrong. Gunnar Helm, like you said, is going to make plays. The running game is going to be non-existent, and that's going to be the biggest faux pas in the game. And Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, I think Carnell Tate might have his coming out party. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think Texas is able to hang around a full game. This might be a close game at halftime, but I think Ohio State's able to pull away and start feeding their horses. Because honestly, if you look around at the teams that are left, none of these teams except for Ohio State have a potent offense. They all have great defenses. All of them have top 10 defenses at that. None of them have potent offenses except for Ohio State. And that's going to be the biggest difference. They're going to be able to win this game because of their offense.
Texas has the Thorpe Award winner, Jahdae Barron, and I'm wondering, can he shut somebody down by himself? Like, they're going to put him on Jeremiah Smith, this is going to be a true test. How good are you? But I still feel like they're going to have to commit a safety. They're going to have to commit extra resources. I know Smith is a freshman, but they're going to find ways to get him the ball. They have all year. They've been going against number one corners the last couple of weeks. Tennessee's best cornerback, McCoy, got toasted by them. Tennessee was left in shock seeing that what Jeremiah Smith was doing. Jeremiah Smith, nobody can guard him. Right now, it's true. Nobody's been able to guard him.
We'll find out, Mr. Barron.
Well, that does it for our episode this week. Before we get into the semifinals, we'll be back again next week to preview the college football national championship between two of these four teams. Appreciate everybody joining us. Make sure to go follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're definitely on there. Go follow us on social media. Go follow William at Walk On Moose on Twitter. And with that being said, we appreciate it, and we'll see everybody again next week.
That's right.